by now, I'm sure that we're all fully aware of the importance of sustainability. I'm even willing to bet that everyone in this room has heard at least one presentation about sustainability. And if not, well, you're in luck because this is about to be your first. Today, we're going to be talking about the cost of sustainability. Is the price that we pay for eco-friendly goods and the difference between eco-friendly goods and conventional goods really significant enough to make an impact on the environment? So the short question is, should we really be paying extra money for these sustainable goods? As I dissect the details of the ideal sustainable lifestyle, I'd like everyone in the audience to really follow along and have an honest think with yourself if you could implement each and every one of these habits into your own lifestyle. Firstly, fast fashion. Fast fashion is something that has long dominated the international market, both online and in store. And it's no surprise. In every shopping mall you walk in, there is a fast fashion brand. People are wearing fast fashion brands right now in the audience. Having fast fashion is not only convenient and cheap, but fast fashion is also able to rapidly keep up with the micro trends that our younger generation especially demands. So let's take a quick comparison to a sustainable ethical brand and to a fast fashion brand. Just at face value, looking at the image and at the price, how many of you would choose the one on the left? It's even out of stock on the website. This is largely attributed to the fact that although these two t-shirts look the same, one is $200 for 5 t-shirts, and one is over $460 Hong Kong dollars for one single cotton t-shirt. And at face value, it's easy to wonder why anyone would spend so much money just on one t-shirt. When you look deeper into the details of this website, it is a company that's based in Los Angeles in the USA. It not only is certified to be environmentally friendly and fair trade, but they also pay all of their employees and workers fair wages. So with money going to charity, being locally based, having to pay the shipping fee when you want these products, and the fact that it's made out of organic cotton, we start to see why the price is so jacked up. But even though we know we should be shopping from these brands, why do we opt for fast fashion? Right now, sustainable ethical brands just aren't accessible and aren't appealing to the younger generation. And this is something that really needs to be worked on. Because if these basic designs can't even appeal to the younger generation, these sustainable ethical brands are not able to really globally expand and to be part of our daily lives. Another thing that is even more important to our personal and physical health is our diet. It's no surprise that the cattle and dairy industry has long known to be abusive and to be incredibly expensive and harmful to the environment. These cute, unsuspecting little animals are actually the #1 cause of methane production in the US. And we don't even have to get started on how bad methane is for the environment as a greenhouse gas, contributing to rising temperatures, rising sea levels, and more. So why aren't we all vegan? Morally, there's no obligation for us to eat animals. This is because our society simply isn't accommodating to vegans. Think about your favorite restaurant. I'm going to use McDonald's as a quick example. And think about its menu. How many items on the McDonald's menu are actually catered to vegans? And no, we're not talking about snacks like French fries or hash browns. We're talking nutritional, affordable, and desirable meals by vegans. And suddenly, you see that your options are quickly shrinking. Even when we look at vegan-based restaurants like Green Common, one burger is $78. And what's astonishing is that it doesn't even include cheese. If you want cheese on your burger, you need to pay an extra $12. And if you want more flavor, if you want avocado, that's an extra $18. So your one burger for lunch is going to cost over $100. And that's not including drinks or dessert or any other snacks you have in one meal. And now think about it. This is just 1 out of 3 meals that you have to eat every day. Being vegan is not just about paying the price, it's also about commitment and time. Not only will being vegan mean that you have to closely monitor your diet and take almost 5 to 7 supplements a day, there's also a lot of ways that this can impact your everyday life. When your friends ask you to go out to a new restaurant, you now have to check the menu and make sure that there's a vegan or vegetarian option for you. You have to make sure the waiter at the restaurant knows that you're vegan, they know what being vegan is, and that there's no cross-contamination between the dishes. So being vegan is possible. There are a lot of people out there that do it, but it's still seen as an incredibly personal choice that a lot of us don't have to adapt to, even though it's scientifically proven to be better for our environment. Now, these are all external changes that we can see in our society, but there's still a lot that isn't talked about. When living sustainably, we now have to consider where our power supply is coming from. This means you have to do extra research to find a credible green energy company that either uses solar or wind power, and you have to trace back to your heating source, your water supply, and more to make sure that it is sustainably sourced. Essentially, you're restarting your lifestyle from step one. You have to adjust out of these comfortable habits that we've created and completely switch over your lifestyle. To do this at a short notice is incredibly difficult and incredibly stressful, not only physically, but mentally. And what this creates is an incredibly toxic relationship between an individual and our environment. And that is not something that we want to create. Instead of feeling climate guilt or climate anxiety, which a lot of people in our current younger generation are experiencing, we need to create a positive environment where people want to help the environment, not just out of a desperation or a need to fix something, to fix our mistakes, but because it genuinely benefits us, the people around us, and our environment. So a lot of individuals feel lonely and they feel that there's so much pressure on them as one person to make a change. But we have to consider that when each person does their part, that's when we start to actually see direct and valuable change. When individuals come together, they can change their community. And when communities come together, we can change the world by pressuring governments to not only implement climate policies, but to also invest in and subsidize in renewable energies. So let's take a look at two contrasting cities. Can anybody guess where this is? If you can't already tell by the excessive amount of clogs and tulips, this is Holland. So I had the opportunity to visit Holland in 2019, and even though I wasn't looking for it, there were already signs of renewable energy in the area. These are windmills, and they make up 8,300 megawatts of the Netherlands wind power. So these mechanisms don't look complicated at all. There's no modern technology that's required to keep these windmills running. But 30% of these sites are offshore, and you can see that Holland is able to implement this because of the large amount of space they have, which makes wind energy easy to source. But when we take a look at urban cities like Berlin and urban cities that we live in like Hong Kong, suddenly they are much more unable to do this. And this is because cities like Hong Kong, with over 7 million people, rely largely on reclaimed land, and we just simply do not have the space, like you saw in Holland before, to implement large-scale renewable energy, like wind energy or solar panels. Even on this graph, you can see that renewables only started emerging much later than fossil fuels, and it's barely visible. 0.2% of our electricity supply in Hong Kong is renewables. And this is not only because there isn't much demand for it, but also because it just has not been able to be implemented because of the geographical and physical factors of our city. So we can see that even in countries or cities that have the ability to implement financially, there are factors in the way that we have not been able to get over yet. So now we start to see why low-income countries have such a big decision to make. Higher-income countries like Germany, who have world-breaking records of 85% of the renewables sourced from of energy, or 95% of their population supporting renewable energy, These countries have proven that we can sustainably develop and economically develop at the same time. But when you are a rapidly growing economic country like India, it's really difficult to prioritize sustainable energy. So for example, when people start wanting more cars, when people start moving to urban areas and they demand energy, how does the government keep up with this demand? They have to implement cheap and fast fossil fuels. But don't fret, because when agricultural countries like India have their own way of adapting to these climate crises. For example, they can take advantage for the fact that they have land, the advantage of the fact that they grow crops, and they can turn that into biofuels over here. Or they can get the government to really invest in solar panels as they have more space and really commit to renewable energies and learn how to use them. So in the future, it is our hope that the government is able to invest in and subsidize renewable energies instead of fossil fuels to really make sure that people have access to renewable generators, to battery storage systems, and more until renewable energy becomes the norm and not fossil fuels. So I know I've done a lot of talking, but circling back to the first question, does anyone here think that they can actually fully implement every single habit that I've talked about today? You can be a raise of hands. So I didn't expect any raise of hands at all, and that is completely fine. This is a very daunting topic, and even I wouldn't be able to commit to every single step of the process. And this is one thing that really gets to people, that we are not able to fix every single mistake that we've made over these millions of decades in the snap of our fingers or in one generation. But I'm here to tell you that there is still so much we can do within our community. For example, one thing I've personally felt is fun to actually implement is thrifting. Now, this can be at your local market, this can be renting a new dress for an event that you're going to. This can be going through your sister's closet and begging her for that one jacket that you know she hasn't worn but you don't want to buy either. This can be bonding with your friends and going to local markets, which gives back to your community, and make sure that you can choose your own organic foods, to choose what you're putting in your body. And amazing social enterprises like Rooftop Republic have not only contributed greatly to Hong Kong's urban greening strategy, but they also offer incredibly educational courses and starter kits if you want to start your own garden at your school or at home. The key point of this is, it's so easy for us to compare ourselves to other humans, to people that care more than us, that do more than us. It's all part of human nature at the end of the day. But it's not about one person or two people living zero waste perfectly. It's about billions of us really taking the first step, even if we're doing it imperfectly. If you think about the picture that I showed you earlier in the presentation, it seems so lonely that one girl has to hold the burden of the world on her shoulders. But when we take a look at this exact same image with the people supporting the planet, only this time it's a community of people coming together and shining a positive light on the environment. And that is what I want to leave with you today. Thank you.